I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime, and this is Currents.
The last U.S. combat troops are leaving Iraq. We'll have a look back and a look ahead.
By the end of this month, we will have removed 100,000 troops from Iraq, and our combat mission will be over.
He's thrown down with Bobby Flay, and this priest sits down with us to talk about food and grace.
Grace Before Meals is the movement, and the book's official title is Recipes and Inspirations for Family Meals and Family Life, which is almost as long as my last name.
And forget about uniforms. When it comes to this set of trading cards, it's all about collars. Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, this is likely a familiar scene to most Americans. March 20th, 2003, the day U.S. troops began military operations in Iraq with the infamous Shock and Awe campaign. Now, almost 7.5 years later, the last U.S. troops are leaving that country, and we'll have a full report just ahead.
With the pullout of soldiers from Iraq, one thing is for sure, there will be many families reuniting all over this country. And our first story tonight is about a priest whose mission is bringing families together at the dinner table. You may recognize Father Leo peddling hug as the priest who threw down with Iron Chef Bobby Flay over on the Food Network.
Indeed he did, but before his throwdown fame, Father Leo started what he calls a movement. It's known as Grace Before Meals. He started that back in 2003, and it involves his own web-based television show and a book as well. The latest edition of that book, entitled Grace Before Meals, has just been released, and Father Leo recently stopped by our studios to talk about it. Father Leo, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Well, Grace Before Meals is the name of the new book that you have out, and it's also the name of a web-based show that you do, and all of this, it's kind of like your,
It's a movement, really.
Yeah, so there you go.
See, a lot of times people will call it a TV show, and it's really not a TV show, it's a movement. I don't really call it a ministry because it's not something that needs the sanctioning of the church. It needs people who are in church to actually do it. Yeah. So Grace Before Meals is the movement, and the book's official title is Recipes and Inspirations for Family Meals and Family Life, which is almost as long as my last name.
Right. That's why he goes by Father Leo. Everybody, just so you know. But no, but it's great because it combines two of my favorite things, food and faith.
You're right.
And it's just, and the name says it. I mean, Grace Before Meals, you have both elements there. Tell me a little bit about how the book is structured and how it kind of fits in with everything else that you do as far as the show and all that.
So it's much more than a cookbook, which is really embarrassing when they introduced me with a bunch of other panelists, speakers who have, 16 tomes on St. Thomas Aquinas and the spiritual life. Here's Father Leo's cookbook.
Right.
But it's much more than that. It really breaks up the year in 24 chapters so that the encouragement is that families can celebrate at least 2 mini Thanksgivings a month, if I were to kind of describe it. Some bigger celebrations. And we take not only liturgical holidays, we also take just rites of passages from, winning or losing a game, your first job, going off to college, breaking up with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, Grandparents' Day. So not all of these are sacred in the canonical sense, but they're sacred in the Catholic sense because God's invited at every table. So there's 24 chapters. You've got 24 mini essays, a recipe that's been family tested, and also questions to engage conversations, and then also prayers that you can say so that you're not just saying by rote memorization, the bless the Lord and the other gives about it. Amen. Yeah. No one even pays attention to that anymore. Right. So there are some prayer suggestions to really make that day more special. Why do we celebrate Thanksgiving only once a year?
Yeah. As you and I were talking about earlier, we said, Father Leo's a big celebrity. He's like, well, I'm only a celebrity in that I like to celebrate.
That's
but
right.
It's a celebration at least twice a month.
Absolutely. And you said it together that food and faith are your two favorite things, but really for us Catholics, are they not one and the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't separate faith from our food. That's why I love being Catholic. I eat every time I go to church. and that's the kind of God that we have. He's constantly inviting us to his table, but we never really officially and regularly invite him to ours. And so the blessings of the food is really only a means to the greater blessing, which is the end. That sense of communion with the people around your table who are the real blessings at the table.
Yeah. Well, and Grace Before Meals, of course, is the name of the book. It's also the name of the website and
Correct.
the web series. Tell me a little bit about that and where people can find it.
We've now been receiving up to 2 million hits a month.
Yeah.
And so people actually show to me that they're hungry for this kind of information, which is, again, bite-sizable theological essays. You're not going to get anything super deep, but information that is deep enough that you can talk about in a half-hour, 45-minute meal with your family.
Yeah, that's great. And you were talking about Food Network, and you were actually on Throwdown with Bobby Flay, and you threw him down, didn't you?
Well, I don't know.
Not literally.
Exactly.
Figuratively speaking.
Maybe because you're talking about my martial arts background. Is that what
right, there you go.
Yeah, it was kind of shocking, actually, when the Food Network contacted me about a year ago in 2009. They asked if I could do a little segment with them promoting the movement and to kind of highlight my culinary perspective, which is the purpose of food, not just the mechanics of how to make it.
Right.
And so I was more than honored to do it. We had received a lot of press anyway from the front page of the Washington Post. Can you believe that? That was good news about the
Yeah.
priests in the Washington Post.
Amazing.
And it was amazing. And so they got wind of all of this stuff. On the second day of the shoot, I'm putting together my dry ingredients for the marinade of what is now called the famous fusion fajitas. Fajitas.
Nice. Yeah, there you go.
And through the crowd, there's this guy who looks an awful lot like the Iron Chef, Bobby Flay, and it's him. He's standing right there, and he challenges me to a fajita throwdown.
That's so awesome. Catching you by surprise.
Well, I mean, I prayed like I never prayed before.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, that sounded like a lot of fun, but we are just out of time here.
Sure.
But we're glad to have you here on our show as
My
well.
pleasure.
We'll link folks up to your website over on our website, and
They can find out who won that, too.
Well, exactly. We'll throw them that way, as it were. Father Leo, thank you so much for
My
being
pleasure.
here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
He didn't bring any fajitas into the studio.
I know. We didn't have like a stovetop here. I should have brought a hot plate or something.
Would
Say,
have
here,
made him cook for us.
Well, we do have more about Father Leo over on the blog. Just go to currentsny.net, click on Riding the Wave.
Stay tuned. There's much more current straight ahead. When we come back, we'll have the day's headlines, including an historic day in Iraq as the U.S. takes a big step to complete a withdrawal of combat troops.
Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure.
And I'm Francesca Maxime. Coming up later, Lino Rulli has a report that is just for the birds.
That's right. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, the war in Iraq is quickly coming to an end. The last convoy of U.S. combat troops left Iraq yesterday as part of President Obama's plan to end combat operations in the country by the end of the month. But that does not mean all American troops are coming home just yet. There are still more than 50,000 U.S. soldiers in Iraq, and some faith leaders are calling for the humanitarian effort there to be ramped up. The war in Iraq is a big step closer to coming to an end.
It's over!
The final U.S. combat brigade there left the country yesterday as the president's September 1st deadline to end combat operations in Iraq approaches.
We are keeping the promise I made when I began my campaign for the presidency. By the end of this month, we will have removed 100,000 troops from Iraq, and our combat mission will be over in Iraq.
Still, 6,000 more troops need to pull out before the goal of 50,000 troops left will be reached. Once combat operations are over, the U.S. will play an advise and assist role in the country after 7 years of war. U.S. troops returning home say they've done what they can to help train Iraqi forces to sustain themselves.
I think we've given them this last final step that they needed, and that's pretty much what this has been all about the whole time. Was just giving them the breathing room to develop their skills, to be able to control their own destiny, and that's what they've gotten to that point.
That's part of getting back to Kuwait. One, I know no one else is going to get hurt, and two, I'm going home.
The White House says more than 90,000 troops have left Iraq in the past 18 months. So what happens next? That was Cardinal Theodore McCarrick's concern when I spoke with him earlier this month.
My fear is that when out of sight, out of mind, and we may forget that because of the war there, we have left a situation in Iraq which is very, very difficult for the people. Whether it was the right thing to do or not is not the question. We may, and please God, we will be able to stop our military involvement, but we can't stop the humanitarian involvement.
Those worries are well-founded. Iraq still does not have a fully functioning government. Electricity and other utilities are sporadic. But the State Department is expected to help bolster Iraq's infrastructure by hiring thousands more security contractors to take over responsibilities of the military. Well, after 7 years of fighting, the Pentagon says 4,419 U.S. troops have died serving in Operation Iraqi Freedom. The U.S. is increasing its aid to Pakistan, meantime, by $60 million. Senator John Kerry made the announcement today during the trip to the flood-ravaged nation there. The increase would bring the total amount of relief funds from the U.S. to $150 million. The floods have affected 20 million people. Now, Catholic Relief Services has also been in the country. They've been bringing supplies to victims and repairing damaged water systems. Well, back here in the U.S., New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan says he would be glad to help mediate the dispute over the proposed Islamic center and mosque near Ground Zero. Dolan says it's his major prayer that a compromise could be reached. He says he has no strong feelings about the center, but might support finding a new location for it.
A new Pew poll shows more Americans are unsure of President Obama's religion. Obama is Christian, but only 34% of Americans know that, down from 48% in March of last year. Meanwhile, 18% think that he's Muslim, and that is up from 11%. The poll was taken before the president weighed in on the controversy over the mosque near Ground Zero. From Florida, a Gainesville church that wanted to burn copies of the Koran on September 11th has been denied a burn permit. The interim fire chief says that burning books is not allowed under the city's burning ordinance. In an email, the church, the Dove World Outreach Center, responded, "City of Gainesville denies permit, but we still burn Korans." It's not the first time the church has been in the news. Last year, it distributed T-shirts reading, "Islam is of the devil." From England, a Catholic charity may be forced to end adoption services after it was ordered to allow same-sex couples to adopt. Catholic Care argued that Catholic donations would end if it helped same-sex couples adopt. The UK's Charity Commission ruled that there is no justification to banning same-sex couples from adopting. Meanwhile, from Mexico, the mayor of Mexico City is suing a cardinal for defamation. The suit comes after Cardinal Juan Sandoval Iniguez refused to apologize for suggesting the mayor bribed Mexico's Supreme Court to uphold a law allowing same-sex couples to adopt. A spokesman for the cardinal says Sandoval has evidence to back up his claim. The Supreme Court, meanwhile, denies that accusation.
Well, stay tuned. There's more currents straight ahead.
Just ahead, giving a hobby a sense of the holy. They're priesthood trading cards. I'll talk to one of the women behind it.
Welcome back. Well, earlier we met a priest who's been on the Food Network and has his own cooking show. But now we're going to meet some other priests who are quickly becoming stars in their own right.
They sure are. Now, if you were to confuse the priests of the Archdiocese of Omaha for sports stars, you'd be forgiven because they're actually pictured in a new set of unique trading cards. The St. John Vianney priesthood cards are the brainchild of 4 mothers from Omaha looking to increase vocations to the priesthood. Good idea. I had a chance to find out more about the cards when I spoke earlier today with one of those moms, Diane Anderson. Diane, thank you so much for joining us on Currents today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're talking about priest trading cards. First of all, how did you even come up with this idea? Because we've heard of, baseball. I know a lot of young kids have Pokemon cards, but this is a little different.
Well, the idea was inspired because last year was the year of the priesthood. So as a way to honor our priests and encourage young people to make a personal relationship and identify more with our priests, we wanted to give them an opportunity to get to know the priests within our archdiocese. So this was one way that we felt we could really reach kids where where they were at and introduce them to the wonderful men who are serving in the priesthood.
Okay, really great idea. So you're talking about reaching children. So are the cards for adults too? And also, we know boys like to play with trading cards sometimes, but what about girls?
Well, the cards were initially the idea was that they would be for kids. But we have found that adults are enjoying them just as much. And in fact, there have been sightings in some of the local bookstores here of even adults purchasing the cards and ripping them open right there at the counter and sorting through to see which priest they've gotten and see if they're any closer to completing their set. So it really is the young and old alike, and they just enjoy getting to know who these individuals are, because we've tried to include some personal information about each of the priests. And so it helps them identify and helps them get to know them a little bit better.
Speaking of which, how is it that you actually recruit the priests? You ask them to do this? Because I'm sure not everybody wants to have their face and their personal information on a card.
That's true. We did contact the priests in the Archdiocese just through phone calls, through emails, and there were some priests who really wanted to, be more humble, be a little bit more invisible, and through humility decided not to participate in the program. So we have about half of the priests, 121 of the roughly 220 priests in our Archdiocese who chose to participate, and that includes both archdiocesan priests, parish priests. Some of them are from religious orders that are serving within the Archdiocese. Some of them are the retired priests, so there's quite a variety.
What do the priests think of it so far? What's the feedback that you've gotten?
So far, it's been great. Last Thursday, we hosted an extravaganza, an event where we got collectors together so people could swap cards and try and complete their sets. And we had several priests who came and joined us, some who were trading cards themselves, some who just came to meet who some of the collectors were. It really was a lot of fun. There's been some really positive feedback on it.
What do you really hope that these cards inspire? I assume that you're really trying to encourage people to really think about the priesthood and, vocations.
That's part of it. Part of it is getting them to think about the priesthood. We want young men especially to see that these priests have answered an extraordinary call, but they're really ordinary people, and they're all so different that God does not have this cookie-cutter design of only this type of person can be a priest. He has made all of these unique individuals, so every young man has that potential because there's somebody else out there who's just as different as they are. But we also want to encourage all the youth and all the people in our Archdiocese to be praying for our priests. So the Archbishop wrote a prayer that comes on the header card in each pack. So there's a special prayer for priests in there. And we want our youth to be praying for our priests too.
Diane, that's all that we have time for today. We'll certainly let people know where they can find these cards, and what a great idea. Thanks for joining us on Currents.
Thanks for having me. Bye-bye.
Who knows? Maybe we'll be trading in Brooklyn soon.
I know. It's, I'll trade you to DiMarzio for a Caggiano or something like that. But no, it's a cool idea. I like it. It's like baseball. I had baseball cards when I was a kid, so I enjoy that idea.
I'm just laughing because I can just picture it right now. Well, some of them are really cute because they have, or some parts of the card, I should say, on it they have little things like hobbies and stuff like, I like to go deer hunting, or, this is Omaha, not Brooklyn, so hobbies are a little different.
A little bit different Nebraska, I would say.
But whatever it is, and it kind of makes them really be people. And I think that's the whole point is, priests are people too.
Right, exactly.
Well, stay tuned. There's much more Current straight ahead.
When we return, a report from Lino Rulli that's for the birds.
We're going to go bird watching, huh?
Well, actually, we're going to go birding today.
Oh, that's way cooler than bird watching.
Well, finally tonight, as you probably know, Lino Rulli likes to make some new friends, and he's even had the chance to make some fine feathered friends.
That's right. Lino teamed up with Monsignor Stephen Ferrari, who, as territorial vicar, keeps an eye on some parishes out in the eastern part of Brooklyn. Well, when he's not doing that, he's keeping an eye on something else. Birds.
Sure is. Monsignor Ferrari is an avid birder, and he certainly knows his stuff, and that's why tonight he has Lino Rulli's Catch of the Day.
Hey, I'm Lino Rulli here in New York City. Of course, as you can tell, why wouldn't we be in New York City? I'm actually not a big fan of nature. More of a city person myself. However, I'm going to try to learn to enjoy nature. Monsignor Stephen Ferrari's with me. How are you?
Good to see you, Lino.
All right, we need a Monsignor to get this project done, me enjoying nature. We're going to go bird watching, huh?
Well, actually, we're going to go birding today.
Oh, that's way cooler than bird watching. We're going to go birding.
Birding, yeah. Birding is serious bird watching.
Oh, serious. Now, I see you have binoculars. Am I going to get that?
Yes, I have a pair for you as well.
Yes.
Put them up to your eyes first.
Oh, that's a good way to start. All
Yes.
right, boy, Monsignor, you didn't get that title for nothing, did you? Put them up to your eyes first, all right?
All right, now, you need to adjust the width if they're comfortable for you. If not, you know, if you're not able to see clearly, move them this way or this way.
What am I looking for?
Just clarity, just to focus, so that you.
I've never had clarity in my life. How did you start bird watching?
Okay, I started bird watching as a child, just interested in nature. Not just birds. At that point, I was looking at birds. I was looking at trees.
You don't really need binoculars for the trees, do you? They're usually rather
No,
stationary objects.
yeah,
you can walk right up and touch them.
They're pretty. Yes. There's a gas hawk over there.
The bus? You
No,
say a gas
no,
hog?
in the sky.
Oh, I
A
thought you
gas
said
hawk.
Oh, hawk.
You see that big metal thing in the sky?
The plane?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a gas hawk. Lena, you see those white birds, big white birds over there?
Yep.
When you're starting with birding, you should always start with big birds because those you can see and you can probably identify.
I loved Sesame Street as a kid, so let's start with Big Bird.
Okay.
I wish that'd
Put
be
your binocular on that big white bird there.
Okay.
All right. Now you see that the feathers are white, but the bill is not white. Can you tell the color?
No.
Okay, it's a yellow bill.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I just didn't want to get the answer wrong, to be honest with you. I was afraid I'd say something wrong, so I just said no.
That's when we need to turn to the field guides to identify what we're looking at.
Nice.
So what we're looking at is a large white bird, great egret.
Oh, the Ardria alba.
You'll notice that this bird has a yellow beak, which is what we saw, and all black legs. Well, you know, this is not a bird.
Yeah?
Take your binoculars down.
Sorry.
This is not a bird, but
Is that a helmet?
no, it's a horseshoe crab. This hasn't changed in millions of years.
This thing's millions of years old?
Not this one,
Oh.
not this particular one.
It's too close.
It's too close.
Too close. You got to back that thing up for me to see it.
And they mate right here.
Hey.
They mate right here in Jamaica Bay. Hundreds, thousands of them.
To change the rating on the
And-
show if we're going to watch any mating. Or is it not mating
No,
season?
it's not mating season. May, the month of May.
It's okay, kids. Don't worry.
In the
No
spring.
mating.
They lay their eggs here. This is important for the birds because the birds come along and they eat the eggs. That's an osprey, also called a fish hawk. These are also migratory birds. So this guy's going to be flying south very soon. And
Now, what's that?
what's this? This is a yellow-shafted flicker.
The yellow-shafted flicker?
Yes. Well,
Who's making these names
it's
up?
because look at his I don't know if you see his
I
feathers.
see. I'm looking at him right
Oh,
now.
he just landed.
Yep, he just landed.
Okay. And his feathers are yellow shafts. Oh, now the gray one is all the way up on the top.
Let me see. If it's a night heron.
What's it doing out in the daytime?
Yeah. Why are we looking at night herons in the middle of the day?
Well, because they do exist all 24 hours.
Well, that's true. They don't only exist at night. What's the joy you get out of doing this?
I connected with spirituality because for me, I'm in God's creation. God created, just as He created you and me, believe it or not, He created everything we see, everything that's around us. And so I see God here. And it puts me in touch.
I'm going to get the binoculars on for
And
that.
it puts me in touch with a deeper reality. It really does. I'm awed by the color, the variety of the birds, and the way they're able to survive, disregarding who we are. They just fly all around us.
Everybody ignores me, so I'm pretty used to that. All right, Monsignor, I think I'm getting the hang of all this nature thing and the bird watching, birding thing.
Birding.
I'm actually starting to get the hang of this, man.
Oh, you're
Appreciate
welcome.
this.
Oh, Alino, excuse me. There's a yellow-bellied sapsucker over there. I gotta go. You can find your way back, right?
Huh?
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
No, I can't find my way back. I didn't say I liked nature. I said I'm starting to get the hang of nature. All right, see if I can find a cab out here.
And Lino hasn't been seen since.
Right.
He got lost and
He's still out in birder country.
Right. But no, it's a lot of fun. And that's almost like a an analogy for Brooklyn as well, and the variety of the birds is like the variety of the different kinds of people that all live in Brooklyn. So it's the city of immigrants. I guess it could also be the city of birds.
And God created us all as well.
That's right.
You know, because I actually live here in Brooklyn as well as work here in Brooklyn. But yeah, it's the whole idea of getting into nature, getting away from the concrete, being able to be more in the natural world. Because in New York especially, I think it's really easy to sort of forget exactly what God created. And when you go out there, and even though Lino's joking around all the time, you know, certainly I think you feel a little more connected to the earth and to God.
Oh, definitely. Well, I was, you know, I was connected to a little bit of earth yesterday. It was called the baseball mound.
Yes.
And so we're going to actually show a little bit of that tomorrow night and see my experience. I got to throw out the first pitch, much like you did last year at the Brooklyn Cyclones game.
Did you meet the Ramones guy?
No, I didn't. But I did meet someone else who's very important. I met the former mayor of New York City. You'll have to tune in to find out which one, if you can guess.
And see if you made it.
See if I made it across the plate.
All right.
I don't know.
I have faith in you. Until then, you can always watch us online at currentsny.net. And if you have a comment or a story idea, we'd like to hear from you. So just email us drop us a line at currentsny.net. That is the email. So for all of us here at Currents, I'm Francesca Maxime.
And I'm Matt McClure. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.